we were exposed to an act of Mother Nature that none of us would have ever imagined. Where our breakwater system that would have served this country for over 35 years was compromised with waves some fisher folk believe to be over 30 feet with abnormal energy thrust, destroying the breakwater as we know it and compromising the boats, not only in the water, but some on the dry dock as well. Some on the dry dock that persons perceive would be safe there were also damaged because of the abnormal activities of an abnormal system. And what I need to say, Madam Deputy Chair, is that we have to thank God for small mercies. And I say so with all the sinew in my being. We have to thank God for small mercies. Because if we reflect on what happened to countries that were impacted by the hurricane, it went into Hurricane 5 system. And you recognize what happened in those other countries. The Windward Islands, Trinidad, Venezuela. We had devastation beyond our imagination. So it was not only Barbados which felt the full effects of this abnormal thrust and hurricane, but as I said, it was countries across the world whose economies, like our fishing sector, were destroyed. That is the reality of it. In our fishing industry, we lost 240 boats total, which were damaged or destroyed. I want to say today that 149 of those boats were damaged. 91 totally destroyed based on the engineers' reports. Today I want to report to the country because from the time that the incident took place, and I was made aware that there was an adverse impact on the fishing industry in our Bridgetowns harbor, I made it my business, when given the all clear around 1:32, to be on the road, to be present with the fisher folk, so we can start the action plan. The Prime Minister, in boots, also turned up to have the conversation right there and then with the fisher folk about the recovery plan. Minister, my colleague from Christchurch East, was there, and the Member of Parliament for St. Michael Southeast, all there to support and ensure that the fisher folk were looked after. And this is what we have done since that fateful day. This is what this government has done. I just said 149 boats were damaged. I want to report today, because the first thing the Prime Minister said is that she is going to set up a benevolent fund for the fisher folk, where we will be able to meet their immediate needs. Because we believe as a government, as a caring government, that their basic needs must be looked after. We understand full well that the fisher folk have family like everybody else. They are the bedrock for a lot of society and a lot of homes and families in this country that we live in. They're responsible. They provide the basic needs for their family. We understand that. And so a benevolent fund was set up by the Prime Minister immediately, because she met with the fisher folk, along with myself and the ministers I just alluded to, on site and subsequently. And I want to say that so far, that benevolent fund has realized over $2 million. I want to repeat, $2 million to support the fishing industry. $2 million. This is what we have done so far. I want to say, as I said earlier, 149 boats were damaged. The first thing we decided as a government, knowing full well that like other fishing industries across the world, Barbados fishing industry suffers from the same IUU, illegal, unregulated, undocumented fishing sector, unreported. You'll probably say IUU, unreported fishing sector, which means a lot of the fisher folk are not formally associated with the sector in the way that we would like them to be. It's a fact across the world, and we deal with it at all the international conventions. It is a fact. And so, it was, I may say, a tedious exercise to get all that information and get them into the systems so that we can start the disbursements immediately. It was. And we recognize, of course, that the fisher folk, majority, over 90% of them, had no insurance. So we had to implement what I call the 3 R's of good politics. We had to rescue the industry. We had to restore it, because that was the effort that was needed right then. And we are now in the process of rebuild. But let me further explain. Out of the 149 boats damaged, because as the Prime Minister announced to the country, and I'm sure that all the fisher folk heard, because a lot of them, majority of them, were at the meetings that we held. And this minister have had a number of meetings only up a couple of weeks ago with the fisher folk. And I met them at the boat yards that they are repairing their boats. That's why you can speak about the repairs of the boats, because I visited them on more than one occasion. And when I couldn't meet all of them in their space physically, there were virtual meetings as well, where we discussed at length and agreed on the way forward for the fishing industry. And with all those meetings I had with the fisher folk, I must tell you, I have only heard 2 persons so far. 2. I've only heard. I can only speak of what I've heard. Who is lamenting the fact that the government should give them 100% financial assistance. For the major part, the fisher folk not only understands, but agree with the 25% as announced by the Prime Minister as a grant for both repairs and the advancement of new boats, with a 30-year revolving loan scheme at 4% at the lowest interest rate. That is what was the agreed position. And I want to say that so far, out of the 149 boats that were damaged, albeit that we had a tedious, maybe onerous at times, exercise in getting those persons in terms of the TAMIS information, getting them banking information. Majority of them have banking information. Little or, I can say, very few of the fisher folk had an NIS number. They were not part of the formal setup. And so, we work, and I must thank those persons in my fishery division, led by, of course, the Chief Fisheries Officer, who worked relentlessly to ensure we got that information for the fisher folk so that today I can report to the country that out of 149 boats damaged, 78 persons so far, 78 persons so far has gotten their first 25% grant so they can repair their boats. I want to report today, out of 149, I will repeat, damaged vessels, 78 persons have received the 25% grant given by government for the repairs based on the engineer's assessment. But we went a little further because we understood and we understand the industry. And we understand quite clearly that the fisher folk probably had money to pay for those assessments, those engineers' assessments. There are about 6 marine engineers in Barbados. And what we say to the fisher folk, contact those engineers. The numbers were provided. Contact those engineers. And what this government will do is that we will pay the marine engineers for assessing the boats and sending in those reports so we can give you the 25% up front. And that is what has happened so far. I must say that on a daily basis, persons are sending in those repair estimates by the marine engineers so that the accounts department can process them. That is what has happened so far. And we have said to the fisher folk in meetings, because we have had a number of meetings. And all the fisher folk, all of them, with the exception of probably 2 or 3, understands fully well that the other 75% will be accommodated, and we have had discussions with the enterprise, both the Enterprise Growth Fund and Fund Access, so we can incorporate them into the system and get these boats back on the water. If any person in Barbados happen to pass by the port, by the Coast Guard, or behind the coastal managed area, you will see fisher folk working. And if you happen to do like this minister and go and engage them, they will tell you how happy they are to receive that first set of grant money on behalf of the government of Barbados. But what else have we done? We have said that we must provide, and this is the Prime Minister, and she said it. She only said it, but she ensured that the provisions were there so it can happen as well. We have said that there must be a business interruption benefit, similar to what happened during COVID. Now, this is an emergency. And this is not for political theatrics, of course. This is serious business, the business of people's lives and their livelihoods. We know that families were affected in a major way. We know very well that there must be a basic needs approach to the way how we deal with it. And what we decided to do as a responsible caring government, and this was the decision of cabinet. Not only the member part of St. Michael Northeast, as we know it. This was the unequivocal decision of cabinet that we will pay for all boat owners for the first 3 months initially with the likelihood of extension. All boat owners will receive $2,500 over the first 3 months initially, with the possibility of extending if needed. $2,500, all boat owners. And all crew members, $1,500, and captains, $1,500. That was the decision of cabinet in order to be able to help persons during this difficult time. I want to say that there were 469 persons who qualified under this business interruption benefit scheme. 469. I repeat, 469. I want to say, as I speak, out of those 469 that were supposed to receive benefits, all 469 persons got their first tranche so far. All 469 from a caring government. All. I want to also say that out of that 469, for their second tranche, 150 persons have been paid thus far. And these payments are given on a daily basis. So I expect between this week, sometime next week, that the other tranche will be delivered to those fisher folk, those boat owners, those captains, and those crew who were not either not employed or engaged in other activities where they would consider employed persons. That is what we have done so far as a government. Recognizing, of course, the difficulties of being able to get that information because the system was not formalized, as I said, and it's not idiosyncratic to Barbados because this is a problem we are facing with globally in terms of the IUU situation. That is what we have done so far. And I want to thank you, have the opportunity right now to thank those persons who would have given to this benevolent fund because, as I said, we have to thank those persons in the same way that we are saying to Cuba, we are going to help you as a good brother. Reciprocity sometimes works both ways. And I want to thank now CAF for lending assistance to this benevolent fund. The government of Bahamas, Dominica, and there is an individual who would have donated some funds, and it's not for me to be able to advertise in this August chamber. But this is the type of benevolence and the type of country that we intend to build on in terms of relationships. We must be able to help each other, not only as a country, because my appeal was to Barbadians as well, to assist those same fisher folk. Because I'm sure that a lot of us can go in the fish market at times. And I know that a lot of us venture in oysters, that beautiful redefined market, and are able to get an extra fish or two to help feed your family. And I say that we must be able to help lift up each other in the face of these adversities. Yeah, we must be able to lift up each other. And I'm happy that we were given the support so that the benevolent fund will be able to help those fisher folk to support themselves and their families. We also said that it is not for our government to have a tailor-like approach to the boats, whether it is the repairs or the buying of new boats. That decision must be the sole decision of the fisher folk, who sometimes were involved in the industry for the better part of 50, 60 years. Even before some of us were in our nascent existence. And we said, as a responsible government, that we will allow the fisher folk to go on an exploratory trip to see for themselves, because a lot of the complaints were that when they were online and viewing these boats, they were not satisfied in terms of the location, the size. There were a lot of things that they wanted to see. They're asked to go and to see and be part of the decision making. And it was decided because of the marine expertise in Canada and the companies that we recognize that were similar in terms of the build-out of the boats and the hulls. Because a lot of persons see our fishing vessels, maybe dock, whether on land or at sea, and think that there are just boats that you can go on the internet and order, and that what works in China can work in Barbados, and what works in Japan can work in Barbados, and what works in another country can work in Barbados. But our fishing industry is so unique to us that the fisher folk said in one voice, look, we need, because this is what we fish for. We do long line fishing for tuna, swordfish, and other related families. This is what this industry requires. And we need to go and see for ourselves. And this government made the decision to allow and accommodate those fishermen. I want to give the country, the team that went to Canada to see for the boats for themselves so they could make informed decisions and return to their respective associations. So the fishermen, the Banofo, I want to tell you who was on that trip. You have the PS of the ministry, of course, as the chief financial officer. We had a government procurement officer. We had a senior vessel inspector who inspects the vessel. We had 4 fisher folk. How many? 4 fisher folk, including the head of the government fisheries advisory committee, and a local boat builder as part of the delegation to ensure that not only the boats are fit for purpose, but we had the government procurement officer so that the procurement rules and the procurement engagement will be in line with what occurs in this government. I don't know what occurred prior to 2018, but I know this is what we did. I want to call out the delegation. The PS of the ministry, the chief fisheries officer of the ministry, the senior vessel inspector who inspects the vessels before they go in the ocean, whether new, repaired, or old, on a yearly basis. 4 fisher folk. Now, I don't see where is that 4 fisher folk. The fisher folk in the community that is part of the social buildup of this community. This that has worked hard to build Barbados, build families in Barbados. Fisher folk who are responsible for feeding this country, who are responsible for the 6 million or so that the central bank report that comes into the industry. Ordinary people, village people, like myself, a small minister, a village person. I can't fathom why there could not be taken on a trip to see those boats that will ensure the basic survival of their livelihood. I can't see it. I really can't see. I can't fathom. Fisher folk from Oistins, fisher folk from Bridgetown, fisher folk from Concept Bay, Paynes Bay, fisher folk all over Barbados, ordinary people Like those who would defeat the member of parliament for St. James Central and allow you to be here today with full sinew. With full sinew. And the member of parliament for St. Lucie, who was able to have that delicacy on his table. And I'm sure the member of parliament for Christchurch South, when he has the time and he visits all these things, he may get a fish or two too. So it has been able to feed each one of us in here. It has been able to sustain our lives. It has been part of the social build-up. And I am making no apology to Barbadians, sorry. I am not making an apology for Barbadians to sending fishermen to Canada, 4 fishermen to Canada, to be able to see boats and help build back this industry. I am making no apology today to anybody. I am proud to say that the fisher folk, and I learned today, because it was told that they probably had good amenities, I will hope that we as the government, I know that any hotel they go in will be a hotel, will be a pristine place that is fit for fishermen, that is fit for lawyers, that is equally fit for parliamentarians, that is equally fit, Madam Deputy Speaker, for yourself to be able to go and use the fish. You may order fish up there too. I am glad, I am proud that the fisher folk went up there, and not only went up there, but they reported from going up there that we can get boats built in Canada, especially those larger boats over 45 feet. And we have started to have those engagements where the companies over there can build those molds for us in Barbados to be able to build back our fishing industry, which is unique because the type of boats that we have, interestingly, is not something that you can go any place and just buy off the internet, as was suggested, or you can look at the internet, as maybe suggested earlier. These boats are, even the way how the ice boxes are put in these boats are unique to Barbados, even that. How we put the fishing lines and stuff, every equipment that's used is unique to Barbados. And so that is why this fact-finding mission was so critical. And that's why this fact-finding mission was made up of the persons who not only operate in the industry, who not only live in the industry and are part of the tangible build-out of the industry, but those who will be affected if we get it wrong.
Sound like a fisheries minister, sir.
No, if we get it wrong, and if we are not able to have the ear of the fisher folk, which I often have on meetings with them, whether virtually or in person. Because I have been in the hot boiling sun, and I make no apology by saying that I enjoy the interaction with our fisher folk. They will tell you that I'm often at, whether it is the market in Bridgetown or at the boat yards where they are repairing their boats. And I happen to spend a long time. I happen to spend a long time because I understand the importance of having this industry. And I know that everybody in this chamber understands the importance of having this industry back up and running. I know we do. But it is a work in progress. And I want to say that we have decided, because the build-out of the industry requires us to start having a serious conversation about the future of those boat builders. And we said that when these hulls come in, those bigger hulls, because we understand quite well that the local boat building industry can supply us with hulls and boats under the 45 feet. We understand that. And I want to say, as I speak, there is a boat, a new boat, being built by one of our local companies as I speak. I also want to report to the country that so far, With the efforts, I didn't want to thank the fisher folk for staying the course. I want to thank the fishermen and the fisherwomen of this country, fisher folk, for staying the course. Because so far, with our collective effort, because it's about partnerships. It is about partnerships. And you can't have just transition partnerships unless you involve women as well. The Sustainable Development Goal 12 speak about responsible production and consumption. And in order to just transition, where you will have that, in order to just transition and to move from a linear to a more circular type economy, women must be at the forefront. And that is why I'm thankful that the Member of Parliament for St. Michael South started the fish silage and fish offal project, where we are taking now with the women folk in Bridgetown. They're taking the offal and the silage from the fish and now in a circular way, using it in the agricultural belt by pelletizing it for the rabbits and what's not. That is part of the circular build-out and the future of the industry that we are going to deal with. We've also said that because the boat building industry is one of the industries that require those technical expertise and that traditional knowledge, that we will have a partnership. We have already had the conversation with the principals at Salmon Jackman Institute, where we are going to be working with those young people, those young carpenters and persons involved in that industry, to be able to come and work with our fisher folk to get that expertise so that we can have persons to build an industry. The idea is that when we have all these molds, some 45, less than 45, some over 45 feet. When we have these molds in Barbados, and we have persons trained, because it's not only that the principals, and we went to visit the principals of those companies, persons came to Barbados to be able to look to see the damaged boats too. So they will have ideas about what is required in our industry along with our fisher folk. And there's a plan in place to provide that type of level of training. And I'm saying when that training is provided for those fisher folk, because we're moving a lot from the wooden boats to the fiberglass boats and using green technologies in terms of the fishing equipment and that type of stuff. So when the training starts, we are saying that the training will involve those young people from the Salmon Jackman Prescott Institute, so we have a fisher industry that can survive the test of times. That is what we are saying. And not only that, with the hills here in Barbados, with the hills here, and with the moors here in Barbados, we can have a hub to be able to supply fishing vessels, not only locally, not only regionally, but internationally as well. So Barbados can become a hub.
I remember you have 5 minutes, please.
Thank you. Barbados can become a hub, a leading hub in the supply of fishing vessels across the region and the rest of the world. That is the future of the industry that we are talking about. I want to say that we have had the discussion with the fisher folk. We have involved the fisher folk in every single aspect of the discussion. They are well aware, because this minister speaks to them on a regular basis, of what is happening in the fishing industry. I want to say that the 25% for the new boat is something that we have committed to those fisher folk, where the molds and the hulls will be done locally, and with the intention to build back the industry in the not too distant future. I just want to say, in terms of the breakwater, that we have already passed the procurement stage, where a contract was, as I speak, was awarded for persons to use different resilient material, armor stones, to build out the breakwater, because the reality is that we had the breakwater there that lasted 35 years. 35 years. It's like sometimes you will have a hurricane passing, it will miss a house, it will probably miss the house for 35 years, and all of a sudden, that one house is destroyed and none other. It's unpredictable. This is Mother Nature. And whoever believed that climate change was unreal, that is a fragment of imagination. That is something that you watch on the Scooby-Doo show. What happened with Beryl can tell each and every one of us that it is real. It is real. It must be at the forefront of the conversation. That is why our Prime Minister, in her wisdom, has led the charge on the front foot to get persons minded about climate change, minded about the existential threats, minded about the fact that if you don't start doing the right things in terms of building our resilience, that we will be like, in terms of the old Barbadian colloquium, we will be sitting ducks in a small country just exposed. And that is why we are saying that with the experts, the marine experts, we have invested now in a new breakwater system that will be built out over the next couple of months using stronger, more resilient material so we can mitigate the vagaries of the different hurricanes. And I want to say to Barbadians to continue to pray, because as much as we were lucky that we didn't have the devastation on land, because based on what happened in St. Vincent and those and the Grenadines and those Windward Islands, God forbid what will happen on land. And I know that, like other persons in here, I live in probably a little more elevated area than most people. And I wouldn't want to face, and I have to thank God that we were not faced with the same destruction as those countries, because we will not be only talking about the fishing recovery, we may be talking about the recovery from persons who would have been devastated in terms of their homes like other countries. I want to say to Barbadians that I thank God for small mercies. I am thankful that no one lost their lives, because we'll be having a different conversation here. We will do everything in our power as a government. I just explained to the country what we have done so far in terms of the repairs. I want to say to the fisher folk that the $2,500 for the boat owners will continue, so we can support their immediate needs the first 3 months initially, and then the discussion will happen after. For the captains, we are saying $1,500 a month, and the crew members, the $1,500 a month, because we understand the importance of being able to satisfy their basic needs and put food on the table. This is a government that has the pulse of the people at heart. We understand the importance of having an action plan to speak to the needs, the basic needs of our people, and we are not going to let the fisher folk or any other sector suffer under our watch. We have made an unswerving commitment to the fisher folk. I am leading the charge as the minister responsible, and I want to give not only the fisher folk the calm assurance, but all of Barbados, that the fishing industry will be built forward better under my watch and under this government's watch. And I will ensure that this boat that was rudderless before 2018, that this boat with a captain who is compassionate, caring, and careful will navigate the shoddy waters, even if it is the waters of Hurricane Beryl. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm obliged.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I beg to move the suspension of the House until 20 minutes past 3.
Honourable members. Honourable members, the question is that the suspension will be, of this Honourable Chamber, will be held until 20 minutes after 3 this afternoon. Honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. This Honourable Chamber is suspended until 3:20 this afternoon.